Thank you very much. My name is Frederico Ramos, or Fred, and I'm a principal at Aedas, Singapore. Before I start, I would like to thank Ralph and Emma and the whole team for the BIM Coordinators Summit for the opportunity to have me here talking to you all. And I particularly want to talk all of you attending here and all of those that are attending virtually, and to save 30 minutes of your time to engage in what I hope will be a nice discussion about the challenges and opportunities of digitalization and decarbonization in the AEC industry. So let me start by talking a little bit about Aedas. At Aedas, we believe that great design can only be achieved by people that have a deep understanding of the communities that they are designing for. And this has informed our strategy for a global presence with over 1,200 talents spread across the world, located in 11 cities, providing services in the areas of architecture, landscape, master planning, interior design. We are strongly committed with design quality, and over the years we have won over 720 international design awards. At the Aedas Singapore office, we host over 220 talents providing services of architecture and interior design. An early adapter of BIM, we tend to look at BIM beyond just BIM, focusing on integrated digital delivery. And we are extremely proud that our recently completed over the pandemic project of the Woodlands North Coast was awarded was shortlisted for the awards of the BCA, Building Construction Authority of Singapore, Integrated Digital Delivery 2021 Awards. Being based in Singapore, we are, of course, very proud of have been involved in some of the landmarks of our nation city, being it the iconic Marina Bay Sands or the renovation of the legendary Raffles Hotel. So a little bit about myself. I'm an architect with a second degree in environmental planning and over 27 years of experience that have allowed me to work in such diverse places as Lisbon, Macau, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Melbourne. AEC digitalization enthusiasts, I'm often invited to talks in several places in both the topics of AEC digitalization and healthcare. When preparing for this workshop, or this event, sorry, I was brainstorming what can I say to a group of people that probably are the ones that most know about BIM in the world. So it's a bit of a challenge in that sense. And I said, well, if you go with your traditional that showcase what you are doing and the challenge that you have in implementation, it might not be relevant for what we are trying to achieve here today. So I decided to go and use some of these 8 ideas that typically I use in some of my presentations about the future and what is yet to come, and expand these 8 ideas into a full presentation. And being an architect, and because all our friends in the industry like to say that architects like our colors, I, of course, decided to use my colors and use colors to color code my slides. So the original 8 slides are presented in blue, and the expansion of these ideas are then presented in black slides. One would imagine that being that BIM is around for over 30 years, that people will have a pretty good understanding what BIM stands for. But it's interesting to notice that in reality, we don't even agree what the acronym stands for. For some of us, BIM is BIM Information Model. Either for others, BIM stands for BIM Information Modeling. And when looking at standards, the confusion just grows. For instance, for the National Building Specifications Organization, BIM is a process. But for the American Institute of Architects, BIM is data. And for ISO, BIM becomes a product. That is also the vision that BCA, the Building Construction Authority of Singapore, adopts on their Guides for Assessed Information Management Delivery. This has led us also so that some of us started to question what actually BIM stands for. And BIM Allen, the CEO and president of Evolve Lab in 2016, with a sequel in 2019, delivered a presentation where he declared that the future of BIM will not be BIM and is coming faster than what you think. I personally tend to agree with Bill, and I also believe that, contrary to a lot of us think, BIM is not the future. If anything, BIM is the present, but it's quickly becoming the past. And recently, through my good friend Claudia Antunes from Women in BIM in Europe, I came across with a post in the internet that stated that BIM is dead, long live information management. And I really love this statement because it showcases how our industry is evolving and changing. But it also showcases how it's becoming so fragmented. So as a joke, we had BIM managers, now we have information management, we have project managers, we have construction managers, we have procurement management. And I wonder if one day we will need managers for the managers because they become just so much. Jokes apart, I believe that with the technology enhancements and big data and user empowerment, we need a new paradigm. And you might wonder, why do we need a new paradigm? Well, the UN has identified a global trend for urban population boom to a point that managing urban areas has become one of the most important development challenges on the 21st century. In the Asia context, when you compare 1960 with 2018, we realized that there was a growth of 2.3 times in urban population, and it's expected by 2050 there will be a growth of 3 times that much. But not only urban population is growing, also we see the rise of Asian megacities. While in the 1980s we had one of the 4 existing megacities in the world located in Asia, that's 25%. In 2010 it was already 11 over 21, and that's close to 50%. And in 2030 it's projected that we will have 25 over 41, and that's close to 60%. And if you look at Southeast Asia, where specifically Singapore is located, the growing factors are even larger, with 2.5 times and 3.5 times increase in urban population. And this is something that any of us can realize just by looking outside our windows. And in the left side, you have the Singapore city center, how it has changed in 10 years in the region of the Marina Bay, and Kuala Lumpur, and how it has changed over 20 years near the Petronas Towers. In parallel with this urban boom, we have also a challenge in terms of global warming and environmental conditions that took Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, to declare that carbon neutrality by 2050 is the most urgent mission. So we will need to cater for growing population and at the same time meet the goals of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals agenda from the UN and carbon neutrality by 2050. And we can only do that if we take another view on how we plan our cities and how we design our cities. Don't take me wrong, cities are great. They are accountable for 75% of our GDP, but they are also accountable for 75% of our energy consumption and up to 80% of greenhouse gases. But okay, we can say that's cities. In the AEC, you also work a lot in buildings, so maybe the buildings is not so bad. The bad news is that it is equally bad, and the buildings are responsible for 40% of the consumption of the energy worldwide. So to change this and to cater with the growing population at the same time meet the UN 2050 goals, we need a new process. And in this new process, we will not so much design the buildings, but we will be designing the systems that design the buildings. And why we need this? Over the last 15 to 20 years, we have seen a radical transformation of the industry. So we went from drafting buildings to actually go to virtual design and construction that integrates design and construction, allowing us to build actually twice. We build virtually first, and then we build in the real world. That gives us the opportunity to really minimize waste and become extremely efficient. We also adopted the all life cycle principles and information management that allows us to integrate data through design, construction, facility management, and end of life cycle of buildings and assets. And at the city level, we are now looking at opportunities to integrate virtual design, construction, and operation with smart cities, creating an all new reality that completely changed the way that we operate in our industry. Bart Ingalls, in a 2015 conference at the Metropolitan Museum in New York, called the attention that because of all of these changes, we really need to look at the way that we do things. And he says that buildings started to look the same all over the world, because with the rise of international style and modernism and the advent of building services, basically buildings became like a little bit of a box that needs a huge amount of basement, full machinery, just to make them habitable. It's a little bit like making the parallel. When we are sick and we go to the ER, we have a lot of IVs and machines connected to us just to survive. Funny enough, our buildings today need the same just so that they are habitable. And their main function is to be habitable. So this forces us to really look into our disciplines and challenge the way that we do things. So Patrick Schumacher, a principal architect of Zaha Hadid, actually stated that our discipline needs to be refounded and formed once more because we don't have a proper discipline. He proposes a new style that is rooted in digital design techniques that take advantage of the computational revolution that drives our civilization. He says also that we need to develop tools that integrate intelligence and values the social function or aspects. But don't think that this is only for this more radical approach to architecture. If you look at Nikos Stradivarius, that worked with Christopher Alexander, they actually integrated 2,000 years of tradition and history in architecture with algorithmic design and fractals, but very much the opposite approach. They also find that there is a need to change something. And Nikos Alingaros actually says that buildings above all should not do any harm. And because he believes that people feel when the space doesn't work, and he challenges that so that we can design more alive human environments. To do this, we will need a skill shift, a new type of players, where designers will become this mix between geeky coders and funky designers, data scientists that will have a people personality, being technology savvy, and being able to leverage both cognitive and AI intelligence. In reality, I believe that BIM illiteracy is the largest obstacle to the digital process implementation. Miguel Monteiro, that is the project lead for the Uptown Tower in Dubai, that is considered by many the most digitalized project in the Middle East. When asked about what is the most valuable skill for digital transformation, he identifies the willingness to change as the most valuable skill. This is only supported by a 2018 survey by among UK architects that identified cost, lack of senior management commitment, unwillingness to radical rethink the way that we operate, and slow decision-making process as the main challenges for organizations that want to adopt a digital business approach. This issue of illiteracy and lack of willingness to change in management becomes a real struggle for us in the industry to adopt digital process. And many times we, the leaders of the industry, became the first biggest block to its implementation. As Miguel says, we need to pull, not to push, our teams forward. And we'll do that by empowering these people that on our teams that have the willingness to change as champions of change in each team to support the implementation of transformation initiatives. These people will be playing new roles where they will use their skills to adjust requirements and allowing computers to actually come up with designs. When you think about computational design, being it generative design, algorithmic design, or generative design, or any of the other names that you actually want to call it, we need to accept AI and embrace this idea of human-computer co-authorship. Frederico from an AI expert at BCG, actually calls our attention that when you think about AI, we always think about the doomsday scenario, AI is going to replace our work and we are all going to be without work. And we forget to focus on the huge opportunity that exists on the middle ground where humans and AI came together and achieve outcomes that neither one of them could do on their own. Because human-AI relationship collaboration success is possible and is a reality. In fact, organizations that have successfully achieved this verify that their employees are more proud, more fulfilled, they collaborate better with each other, and they are more effective, to a point that they actually had 5-time values in their production, and they generate a happier workforce. This happier workforce will work in a new industry that will leverage the benefits of design for fabrication. As Akming Menges, professor of the University of Stuttgart, states, we tend to look at economy of scale as something that relies on the repetition of the same parts as often as possible. And this is an approach from the first industrial revolution. But at Industry 4.0, with universal fabrication robots, we can actually generate production process or variable process products without added costs. This allows us to rethink the design and construction around a higher level of integration between systems that are generated and processes how the things are built. Taking the opportunity to look at nature and mimic it by understanding that in nature, geometric complexity forms the basis for material efficiency. Like Julian Vincent, professor at the University explains, in nature, material and energy are more expensive than shape or geometry. And with the latest developments in technology, that is also possible these days in the AEC industry. I always like to look at examples from other areas and learn from them. In Italy, Ferrero, the owners of Nutella, working on the Nutella unique project, they were able to use algorithmic design to develop 7 million different jars of Nutella, answering the willing of all of us as consumers to be considered unique and special. This industry will have a one-team mentality that aligns the interests of all parties in a non-disputive culture. Kathleen Muller from the MIT, professor at the Department of Architecture and Engineering, tell us that although architect and engineer talks basically about the same thing, that is buildings, we have very different views on it. For instance, when architects think about computation, they think about geometry design. When engineers think about computation, they actually refer it as performance analysis. When talk about fabrication, architects, digital materialization, engineers, mechanical properties. And even in education, for architects, it's computational thinking, and for engineers is analytical thinking. This divide between the disciplines is a big challenge for the industry, something that started back in the 18th, 19th century divide between architect schools and engineer schools. But nowadays, with the technology available of common data environments in the cloud, 24 hours transparent collaboration is now possible. And contrary to what we tend to believe, thinking interdisciplinary and using technology, it is not a constraint. It's actually an opportunity to unlock and open new ideas and help us to find new solutions. because performance needs to influence design at the early stage of the process. The design decisions that impact how buildings look, they also affect how we use material on these designs. And it's at the early stage that we have on a better position to positively influence the designs that will go to performance. Kathleen actually gives a very good example. When comparing the Olympic Stadium in Beijing and the Olympic Stadium in London, both of them doing the same thing, so they are Olympic stadiums, and the same systems, they have steel roof. But however, the Beijing Stadium has 14 times more embodied carbon than the London Stadium. And don't get me wrong, I love the Beijing bird's nest design, but we as designers need to have a conscience of the impact of our decisions of design. And to do that, to embrace performance-based design, we need to let go our very loved dogma from Louis Sullivan that form follows function, and embrace a new idea that forms should follow performance. Creating a new framework that rises above the adversarial contractual disputes mentality in our industry and really answer the work environment of the AEC and the ecosystems that are arising from virtual design, construction, and operation, so that we can actually achieve an industry that is for the users and by the users. I really love how UN Habitat Block by Block program was able to use Minecraft, the video game, for designing public spaces over more than 25 emerging countries. Understanding the potential of this three-dimensional tool and easy, friendless to users, to actually facilitate the communication between the communities and the project teams. A lot of times we find ourselves in a problem trying to understand, do we have users, do we have customers, do we have clients? It doesn't matter. We actually should look at them as partners because they want to be part of the process. And again, looking at other examples on other industries, I bring to you the attention of the Nike by You process, where users are allowed to bespoke the designs of their shoes by adopting an online platform that allows us to interface with the product that is going to be manufactured. But this idea of engaging with users, it used to be very common in the architectural saw, and you need to get back to them again. Like in the 1970s, Álvaro Siza, the Portuguese Pritzker, was involved on a huge housing committees that were trying to solve housing problems in Portugal. And they will go as a teams into communities, and they will use bed sheets to form the spaces so that people can actually experience the spaces and interact with the design and advise what they will need for their daily performance. Alexander Aravena, also the Chilean Pritzker Prize in Architecture, when tasked to rebuild a community that has been destroyed by a flood, he went back to the community, he engaged with town halls, and he discovered that contrary to what the government was suggesting, that was relocating them to a safer place, people wanted to stay there. And that actually informed his decision for design of creating an urban park that could manage the flooding and allowing people to stay at that location. Engaging users is an opportunity to become better designers. This holistic approach is fundamental so that we can actually create built ecosystems that are found in circularity, integrate green structures, enhance urban biodiversity, and promote population's wellness. All of this so that we can finally achieve the built environment for a better society. In the National University of Singapore, we talk about this idea of acupuncture, that is like the acupuncture for the built environment, where each act of design, each project that we have on a city is an opportunity, like a needle put it into our bodies, to actually reinvent and rebalance all the ecosystem of our cities. I'll give you an example. When we were designing the West Kowloon high-speed rail in Hong Kong, the team, with the collaboration of all, so architects, engineers, project managers, construction industry, and even PMs, we were able to provide the city not only with a station, but also with a huge green park that spans from Kowloon waterfront to the deeper inland of the Kowloon Peninsula. And I would like to finish with this statement from Henry Ford that I believe to be truly inspiring. If you always do what you always did, you will always get what you always got. And that will not allow us to address the challenges of urban population growth while meeting the 2050 carbon neutrality objectives. As a father, I truly believe that it's our obligation to leave a better world and a better environment for the generations to come. And that's why I'm asking and challenge each one of you to take your willingness for change and become champions of change on implementing this new paradigm. This new paradigm that will require new process, that will require a new type of players, performing new roles in a new industry that will have a one-team mentality and will be by the users, for the users, so that we can create built ecosystems that will become the built environment for a better society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Frederico. It was a wonderful elaboration of your thoughts. You spoke about urban boom and how to manage the carbon neutrality. It is important how we enhance our contemporary skills and add new skill set to it. Using computational design with AI makes us more effective. That's very important for us. I'm sure we will be champions of change, and there are a lot of people out there in the room who are champions of change. I'm sure about it. As we see, we are global. There are a lot of people joining online, and we have one of the speakers who is joining online right now. Her name is Himami Shah. She is a BIM manager from Callison RTKL based on, previously she was an Autodesk University speaker. She carries 7 years of experience in BIM implementation and management. She has played key role in implementing BIM on some of the region's most visible and profitable residential, retail, and hospitality projects. Her focus is on opening new opportunities for BIM computational design and emerging technologies. She would be offering her insights into BIM and project management. Over to Himami.